talk a little bit more about this, Professor Adrian Saville of the Gordon Institute of Business Science joins us to talk about this government amending Schedule 2 of the Electricity Regulation Act for the energy sector. Very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. So, what is this wheeling framework? Are you able to unpack it for us, make it a little bit more accessible to our understanding?
Sure. So, well, it's a great conversation to have, for the simple reason that listening to your earlier interviews or earlier conversations with Irashabidi in particular, this should have been brought about many months ago. Coming into lockdown, there was reference to urgent structural reforms that were going to be put in place, and indeed this is one of them. I think the real silver lining to this cloud is that there was a suggestion that the ceiling was going to be lifted in terms of generation, but lifting it all the way to 100 really does create a much wider opportunity, and it removes an important aspect or facet of confidence or prospective confidence that has been missing in the economy. So it removes some uncertainty, it injects some confidence, it gives clarity, and out of that, I think it does contribute to the important recovery prospects for the economy, and along with that, spillovers into other investment opportunities and job creation. So, seen from a range of angles, I think that this is a unambiguous positive.
So we'll deal with them piece by piece and some of those, especially the employment factor. But as you say, it may be encouraging to know that there's an energy availability factor. But is there clarity on how private generators will have to supply Eskom and municipalities? And is there alignment between the buyers of electricity?
No, I think that's going to sit in the details. What we've got in the immediate environment is the prospect for enterprises to remove their energy insecurity from the equation. And if you think of one of the critical components in the 2020 coming into 2021 recovery has been the commodities sector. Now, that by design is a energy-intensive sector, and it's very difficult to put in place long-range plans where you sit with energy insecurity. So, beyond thinking about ways in which we might get wider benefit, I think the immediate and the narrow benefit is for businesses to be able to remove that energy insecurity from their business planning and from their investment equations.
And the nitty-gritties of the timing, you mentioned earlier on what Irashabidi was saying, that it would have been better to do it sooner, but now that we've arrived at this point, it's great. But the important thing also to know is, are we any the wiser after this announcement of when these private generators will come onto the grid?
Look, by design, these are investment plans, which means we're not talking about a flip over in the very near term. These plans will take time to crystallize the actual nature of the projects and the spend. Perhaps funding is a smaller concern or aspect, given that you've got a secure offtake, that you will be your own supplier and your own customer. So financing is perhaps a smaller component of the greater cocktail, but what it doesn't change is that we're talking about multi-year projects, and it remains the case that South Africa sits with an energy deficit. So this constraint that continues to press down on the economic recovery and challenge important components of it, such as the commodities sector, that hasn't been entirely removed, but some of the uncertainty has been taken off the table. But we're talking about years, not months or quarters.
Okay, so my colleague earlier also mentioned the Meridian Economics study published on the benefits of this framework. You spoke about it, the jobs, something like 16,000 jobs. How soon will this be realizing? Can Eskom compete given the fact that it's not in a good financial standing?
Well, look, from a jobs perspective, it is the case that the energy sector is not a particularly labor-absorptive sector. It's capital-intensive rather than jobs-intensive. And so you're unlikely to see, well, you've already given the number. These are important jobs, but it's not going to be a powerful job generator. Rather, where the jobs will come from is the spillovers and the multipliers and the linkages that flow from any investment and renewed investor confidence that might emerge from this. And not to lose sight of the fact that there will be important job creation upstream in the build phase of all of these plants.
Thank you so much for your time and your insights, Professor Adrian Saville of the Gordon Institute of Business Science. Of course, we'll continue looking at the impacts of the economy, what South Africa can do to get ahead of this situation in the next hour. For now, let's take a quick